for now, we're going to talk about automation, specifically, which Nick, you just touched on, automation and robotics. The future of automation and robotics in cell therapy manufacturing is likely to involve several advancements aimed at further enhancing efficiency, flexibility, and scalability. And so, Will, I'd like to direct my first question to you. What specific tasks or processes within cell therapy manufacturing are currently being automated? And what are the primary objectives behind these efforts? So kind of a right now, and then we'll get to the future.
Yeah. As Nick was alluding or was mentioning, right? Cell therapy manufacturing on the autologous scale is really a medical procedure that is performed or has been performed as we entered into this industry manually, right? Using a lot of open processing of human cells, human tissue, in a way that is a contamination risk. It requires a clean room type of environment, suites where you make that manufacturing happen. The unit operations by themselves are, specific, or we had specific medical or hospital grade type of equipment that we employed for that on a commercial scale in individual suites. So the number of suites and the space was really the capacity driver of manufacturing. So right at the beginning of my tenure there, we started to collaborate with a couple of automation system providers out there on the market, and there is a bunch of companies at this point in time available. Like Lonza is doing this with their system, as well as Miltenyi, and we have had quite some success as we expanded our capacity using automation technology. And specifically, what's really important to be automate is things like fluid transfers, right? In order to close the process, what happens between unit operations is, in the manual process, things like piercing a bag, taking the sample out of that bag, right? Or moving material from one bag to another bag, to have these transfers and enable these unit operations to be performed. And so we control the process also, and that's going along to analytics towards a success rate, right? You want to have a number of cells transduced, to be a CAR T to a certain degree, and then you measure these numbers of cells, with cell counters. So we use technologies like flow cytometry for percent transduction determination to control the process that way. To do this online would be amazing. We would be definitely saving vein to vein time. However, the analytical technology, as well as the fluid transfer technology at the volumes that we need, which is like milliliters rather than large volumes, is still kind of like at the beginning of efficiency, if you want, right? And so we do have some success, but yeah, to close the process, we're just a step away still.
Fair enough, thank you. And Nick, I'd like to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts on the same topic and same question of, what's currently being automated and what are the primary objectives associated behind those automation efforts?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we worked on at Vittoria was developing a 5-day manufacturing process and trying to streamline that as much as possible. And what's interesting is my background, my former company was a molecular diagnostic company where we actually used a lot of automation and robots ultimately in the manufacturing process. So I had a little bit of firsthand experience with some of the equipment now being used in this space and kind of being tailored for cell therapy applications. But I think what we've seen and what we have access to today, as I mentioned before, were tools for automation of unit operations. It's really linking or daisy chaining those operations together in a closed format, where I think the gaps still are. And bringing all that, I'll call it liquid movement, together is still one of the inherent challenges, and figuring out a way again to actually sample what's happening in the system in real time is another one of the challenges. Otherwise, you're pausing between unit operations to get cell counts, to figure out cell numbers, to figure out how to reconcentrate the product, et cetera. So again, like having those onboard analytics, I think is going to be really critical, and how those ultimately get integrated into some of this new equipment, I think is going to be an important factor. But what I will say is, based on my prior experience, some of the robotic arms, that have been used in other industries for a while now and are being adopted for cell therapy, I think will help with some of the, I'll call it, manual processes today of moving things. But there's a lot of work to do to kind of tailor those end of arm tools to work with cell therapy products versus, kind of building cars in a car factory. So, that's some of the, I would say, innovation that's happening today.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to jump ahead because you mentioned something certainly about the manual processes that are hopefully going to be alleviated or helped in some way. How do the automation technologies impact the skill requirements and job roles within cell therapy in the workforce? Nick, I guess I'll keep with you on that, and then I'd like to hear from Will after too. But yeah, what strategies would you say are being employed to address workforce training when it comes to automation, and can everything be automated, because automation has its challenges too? So, what are your thoughts on that?
No, great question. I mean, I think it'll be incremental as far as what gets automated, sooner rather than later. So there's always going to be a human element, I think, at least near term for a lot of these processes. I think from a workforce standpoint, one of the things you need to think about is you're going to move from more of a biology type of training background to more of a programming background. Because as you bring in robotics, automation, and the fancy word they use for kind of bringing all that together, integration, programming those robots, understanding the vision systems, the coordinates, et cetera, that's a little bit more of a programming background than a kind of a pure science or biology background, which is, what most of the workforce has today is from a training standpoint. So I think you'll start to see that shift or that requirement from a skills standpoint, at CDMOs, at therapeutic companies that are doing in-house manufacturing. As far as what's happening to kind of allow for that, I don't have firsthand knowledge of, but I'm sure that those CDMOs and the large pharma companies that are manufacturing these products in-house are thinking about that. I'm sure they're looking for people with those skill sets to start to adopt the processes.
Sure, that makes sense. Will, I want to give you the opportunity to chime in on this as well. First, that automation has its challenges, and what are those? But then, how can we be training a workforce to deal with automation?
The prime challenge around automation of cell therapy is the fledgling character, the newness of the process, and therefore the inherent variability, right? And that goes along with the skill set, and I, Nick, I agree, to some extent to what you're saying. Yeah, we can kind of like shift away from having this like almost PhD type of or MD type of activity going on on a manufacturing floor. But the point is we have variability to deal with. So the ultimate crux right now that cell therapy is striving towards is right first time. And right first time means, you start your process with your apheresis material, and you go and you bring your CAR T at the end of this process. 5-day process is absolutely doable. We all are working on that. It's a goal of the industry. But the problem is, what if things go wrong? There are some things analytically that we can't do anything about, which is, for example, particulates in bags at the end of the process. There's also, in the middle of the process, because we are working with bags, the little problem of leaky bags. All of this is associated with using medical grade plastics. Our bags, our tubings, our kits that we have for automation equipment, everything is medical grade, manufactured by a few companies out there on the market. And we deal with unforeseen events pretty much most of the time. And from my quality units perspective, it's the beast to be tamed, so to speak, right? So going towards automation doesn't take the leaky bags away, and it doesn't take the problem of particulates away. And so what we need to do is make sure that the staff that's on site, right, the operators in the suites, are capable of dealing with these problems in a way that salvages that lot of product. Making a lot of autologous CAR T is very expensive. Each one of those, right? Each one of those runs is no matter if it works or not, about at the same type of price tag. And so what we need to do is avoid these issues. And from the quality, I can tell you that we're working really, really hard on this across the entire industry to work with suppliers to make things more safe. However, these unforeseen things will be a bane of our existence probably for the next decade, until we have established a supply chain that really leans towards the next level of depth of provision.